Iawn, bore da pawb, a croeso i'r sesiwn Sbotolau Hinsawdd. Diolch i chi am gyfrestru ac ymuno efo ni bore yma. So good morning all, welcome to our Climate Spotlight session. Thank you for registering and joining us this morning. So a few things just to quickly note before we start. So just to make you aware, today's session is being recorded. So just to make you aware of the privacy policy that's included in the meeting invite. And obviously any issues with that, please do let us know. So the Climate Spotlight series is being facilitated by our Climate Change Support Programme, and that's funded by Welsh Government. And the aim of that programme is to support Welsh councils in preparing for a net zero public sector by 2030. So today's session is on buildings decarbonisation. Really looking forward to hearing from our three speakers that we have today, and then hopefully we'll have some time at the end just for a quick Q&A as well. So if we do have time, aware we've got three presenters today. So firstly, I'd just like to hand over to Graham Bowes, so Chief Executive of Denbighshire County Council, who's kindly agreed to introduce the session for us this morning. So if I can hand over to you, Graham, please. Diolch. Thank you.
Yeah, diolch yn fawr, Dewi. Bore da pawb. Good morning all. Welcome to this to the session. I think we've got 45 minutes scheduled for it, and that's including some presentations and a chance hopefully for question and answer. So I won't be too long in my introduction because we know 45 minutes will fly by. As we say, it's the Climate Spotlight session, so the number of these sessions. As not only am I chair of Chief Executive Denbighshire County Council, also chair this subgroup of the Local Government Climate Strategy Panel. There's a number of subgroups. Buildings is one of those subgroups, and I chair the building subgroup. I haven't got the list in front of me of the other subgroups. I'm going to put Dewi or somebody on the spot, or Tim. Can you just remind everybody the other subgroups? Dewi, Tim, Richard, sorry.
Yeah. No, that's fine. A test this morning, isn't it? So we've got.
Yes, always so like to drop someone in it. Sorry, Dewi.
No, that's fine. So we've got adaptation, buildings, transport, procurement, and land use as well. So we've got those working groups. Yeah.
So the actual climate strategy panel covers a wide variety of all kind of associated work to do with the kind of the climate strategy, zero carbon, etc. And this is the building subgroup. So that's our focus for today. We've got pleased to introduce our three speakers who will introduce themselves in a minute. Amy from Blaenau, Gwent, Tony from Swansea, and Martyn from Denbighshire. All three are going to share some of their kind of insights into the decarbonation of buildings within their authorities. Martyn in particular will no doubt focus on the fantastic support he's received from the Chief Executive in that endeavour. Okay, look, no pressure, Martyn, no pressure. No, seriously, I mean, when we get into this type of work, we know it's very much a team effort, and at all levels, in terms of having to address this very serious matter of decarbonisation, and that's within councils, between councils, in terms of partnership working and sharing experiences, the support from a wide range of other organisations. There's such a wealth of knowledge out there that we're trying to tap into. So it's not just the knowledge we've got within the local government, it's a wider kind of knowledge that we're trying to tap into. So it's those groups that we've mentioned isn't just around local government. We do try and bring other colleagues in as well. Great support from WLGA and Welsh Government as well. And in the building subgroup, we've heard from a range of councils on their progress to date towards the 2030 ambition for a net zero public sector, or an ambition that is, and even if we're not going to reach it, and I suspect there are risks that we won't, it's still an ambition I think that's worth trying to retain and to head for the stars, as it were. Our recent work includes the development of the net zero scenario planner. So hopefully some of you, if not all of you on the call, will know a little bit about the net zero scenario planner. If you don't, do ask a question at the end, because it's an important piece of work that we've done. I'll repeat that, the net zero scenario planner. And that's to assist councils in costing decarbonisation of their building stock. So it's an important piece of work. But enough from me, because we've got three people who know what they're talking about when it comes to this much more than I do. So I'm going to hand back to Dewi. So diolch yn fawr. Just note we've got about 53 on the call, so thank you all for attending as well. Great turnout. Diolch yn fawr. Over to you, Dewi. Thank you.
Yeah, diolch, Graham. Thank you. As you say, great to see so many people on the call as well. Thank you for joining. And yeah, thanks, Graham, for that introduction. And great to have you here with us this morning. As you said, particularly as chair of the Climate Strategy Panel's Buildings Group as well. So thank you, diolch. So yeah, say we've got 3 speakers with us this morning. So on that note, happy to hand over to our first speaker. So we've got Amy Taylor from Blaenau Gwent. If I can hand over to you. Diolch, Amy. Thank you.
Thanks, Dewi, and thanks, Graham, for the introduction as well, and the invitation from you as well to come along. So just a brief introduction to myself, and while I'm doing that, I'll share my screen. So I work for Blaenau Gwent County Borough Council. I'm not in the decarbonisation team. My primary role is working within regeneration, and our projects are primarily focusing on regeneration, and in particular placemaking and regeneration in our town centres. So my, sorry, just a second. So my presentation, go back to the start. My presentation is just going to cover one of the projects that we've done in one of our town centres. And one of the things we'll pick up on within the presentation is that one of the points that was just made around the collaborative effort that's needed to bring projects like these across the line. So I'm going to cover a building in particular for us that is one was a troublesome building from a regeneration point of view, but the end product has really become what is a community-focused building within one of our main town centres. So it was split into phases. I'm going to touch on phase 1 only because it just gives you a feel for where we were in the very beginning. But then it will show then obviously in the later phases then where we were. So this was the building when around the time we acquired it. So it's called, it used to be called Trinity Chapel in Church Street in Abertillery. It was a 3-storey former chapel, so it was from the 1800s, really prominent property within our town centre and main retail area. Council acquired it in 2010. As you can see there, it wasn't in a great condition externally, but equally not in a great condition from an internal point of view, and it was pretty much semi-derelict. So we started through, I think it was European Convergence funding at the time, regeneration programme throughout the town, and this was one of the buildings that we looked at. And once we started the works, unfortunately, we encountered one significant issue, was that there was a mains water drain directly under the building. And that required us to do a build over agreement with Welsh Water. So the result was that instead of us having a building that was completed at the end of that refurbishment programme, all we ended up with was an external facade that was much improved, but an internal building that pretty much was just a shell and looking for an alternative use. And so we engaged with various stakeholders and looked at a number of options, and one in particular to us through discussions with our leisure trust stood out. We had a building on the periphery, a library building on the periphery of the town centre. It was well used, but I think there are sort of accessibility issues there. And for them, it was costing a lot because it was a traditional library building, significant glass panels, significant heat losses being incurred, etc. So it was a really difficult building in where they were previously. So where we ended up was an agreement that this would be a good location to relocate the library building. So put together then a package, and I'll cover the funders and sort of the partners that made this happen later, but looked at basically a phase 2 for the building that would incorporate basically the library that was formerly in the other building on the ground floor, mixed use then office and learning space as well, with there are 3 floors. So ground floor is the library, ground floor then is some community use. There's a community hub there, which council uses now. We don't have community buildings, council buildings, and also then our adult education centre, which was a distance from the town centre, located in one of our schools, also moved down, and then we're on the first floor of the building, second floor of the building, sorry. So the building was planned to be kitted out with all of the possible digital learning resources that obviously was allowable within the budgets that we had and the constraints. But also then there is some free space then that it can be used as meeting and conference space that is lettable for community focused activities. But obviously key, to the discussions here today was really looking at then how with all of that we can help the trust from a cost point of view in terms of obviously their energy bills, but also from a decarbonisation building, moving into an old church building traditionally would, probably be quite difficult from an energy usage point of view. So it was, what could we build into the scheme? So I'll just give you visuals of what the scheme has ended up with from as it is in terms of delivery. So there's the ground floor, as I said, the library. First floor then, which is the community space, and then the second floor then the adult education space. But obviously most importantly for what we're here today, what we did incorporate into the building was low carbon heat carbon systems, and at the time it was probably the best, when it was launched, was the best kitted out in terms of low carbon systems that the council had done. And they were chosen, we worked with a contractor called Hydrock, who designed the system for us. So we installed a 19.35 kilowatt PV system on the roof, along with battery storage. We also installed air source heat pumps. You can see there the inner workings of the underfloor heating system. And then we also included some electric hot water, had to upgrade some of the electrical connections, but did a lot of thermal insulation as well to the walls. Obviously, as I said, they were a church building, so making sure that the solid walls were really as insulated as possible so that we minimise the heat losses as much as we could. So there's a picture there of the solar. And then obviously the heat pumps then, and all the internal work there that we installed to the building. And the result at the end of this was that when we did the EPC of the building, that the building is actually an A, and that from a point of view of what we would look at for buildings of that type of size, we were much better than what we would have expected, and that really we are performing as if it was almost a newly built building, which is really, really important for us and for the Leisure Trust. I haven't got numbers on here, but in terms of sort of general reception, I think the immediately you could feel that the building was warm and all of the systems were working well once we completed. But also we've seen footfall increase into the library, which is, like I say, a key thoroughfare into the town centre. They've seen a significant increase, and people popping in who wouldn't have necessarily popped in previously. So for us, there's been a number of wins on this. And obviously, key is that we are aiming at supporting the Leisure Trust in being sustainable. But just to sort of give the picture then of how it was possible, it was really by using many funding partners, and although there's sort of 3 Welsh Government areas there, it was quite a complex package to bring together, but really supported through our Transforming Towns lead, Claire Stonelake, and helped us sort of signpost into the other funds that were available and really bring them together to enable us to bring forward a project that really then was deliverable. So we had Transforming Towns in there as a contribution. We had Low Carbon Heat Grant, which funded the heat pumps and all of the heat works and the power upgrades. We had Transformational Grant, which was for the library fit out area, and Shared Prosperity Fund then supported in the upper floors pieces of work, and then obviously the council contributed in terms of the support that we provided in overseeing the project and ensuring that the project was delivered. So it was in total for the phase 2 works, it was around 1.9 million. So it is a significant cost, but really deliverable. And I think that what was really key on this as well is that we could bring all of the different funding sources together, but also that we've got a building there now that is a community, it is essentially a community hub for the town of Abertillery, and it really offers a provision for all the community, and it supports education and learning, which is also really key to us as well. So that was all I wanted to sort of run through, and obviously happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Amy. That's great start, and appreciate such wide-ranging projects as well. You mentioned that collaboration there between all the funding pots, but also finishing there, it's the wider benefits as well, isn't it? You mentioned community education, future provision as well, looking towards the future. So great to hear, and thanks for getting us started there. That's great.
Thank you.
Brilliant. So then we can next case study. As I mentioned, hopefully we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. So we'll move on to Denbighshire. We have Martyn Smith with us from Denbighshire. So if I can hand over to Martyn then, please. Thank you. Diolch.
Morning all. I'd like to thank my chief executive first. Keep myself in a job as much as
well done, Martyn. Well done.
Joking aside, at Denbighshire we have made quite a proactive stance towards actually reducing the emissions from our buildings, and we have had quite high level support. And you just have to bear with me whilst I'm trying to work out how to put the sound on. There we go. I'm the property, energy and carbon manager, so I'm responsible for leading on the decarbonisation of buildings at Denbighshire County Council. I'm not going to introduce the projects because then you'd have to listen to me speaking for 10 minutes. So I'm going to show a little video. So please excuse me, anyone from North Wales who's on the call, because you would have seen this before, but I'll move on to that now. Hopefully everyone can hear that.
Hello, my name's Trevor Jones and I'm the head teacher here at Ysgol Bryn Hyfryd. This is a bilingual school in the beautiful valley of Clwyd for 11-year-olds to 18-year-olds. There are about 1,100 pupils and about 130 staff.
In 2019, the council members decided to put a motion through to put in a climate and ecological emergency and to work to net zero by 2030. So part of this is looking at all our buildings where the schools are a major part of those buildings.
We're here today at Ysgol Bryn Hyfryd in Rhythyn, North Wales, where JM Renewables were awarded a contract to install 70 kilowatts of solar PV. Along with this, we replaced 3 gas boilers with 2 commercial Mitsubishi air source heat pumps.
The heat pumps meet the design temperature of the school, so in a way, it was almost a direct swap from the boilers. We didn't have to change anything on the secondary side. All we've had to do is reroute these flow and returns to outside. They're all 67mm stainless steel pipe, which will prolong the life of the system. The efficiency of the heat pumps we've installed should be around 300 to 400%. So for every 1 kilowatt of electricity consumed, it'll deliver 3 to 4 kilowatts of heat.
Between both schemes, the air source heat pump and the solar panel system that we installed here, it is estimated that the school will save on average 17 to 19,000 per annum, along with 28 tonnes of carbon.
We've completed about 30 schools in the Denbighshire area out of around about 70 schools that we have in the county. We're very pleased that it's Welsh Government low carbon heat grant that we applied for. And was lucky enough to get 90% of that funding, and Denbighshire County Council's finding the other 10%.
It's been about 3 or 4 months of hard work to get the air source heating installed on the solar panels and some additional LED lighting, but it's the latest in a long line of initiatives and plans that have happened in the school, and we've constantly worked together with the local authority to try and make sure that the school becomes more efficient as we move forward, because a sustainable future is part of what we all want.
I'd like to thank Bryn School for allowing us to do the job that we've done, which will be a saving for both of us.
Well, hopefully that explains it better than I could have done. Now, the main things I wanted to focus on today were the additional benefits and also some of the lessons learned through this process. So we tender all of our projects ourselves. We don't use the refit framework. We've heard a lot of nightmares. And we've had what was called a REBA Stage 4 design on this, so a fully technical design done by consultants. Now, I'm just showing that on screen here. Don't know if you can see my mouse, but the consultant design had specified a brick-built cabin that was actually going to be very close to a fire exit for the children. They were going to be digging up the screed on the floor to run the flow and return pipeworks. They were going to put the cylinder buffer vessel in a room that would have to have heat recovery ventilation units removed, also the servers, and it's right next to the IT staff's office. So that's just one lesson in the importance of knowledgeable site going to staff, because we've heard many horror stories around accepting designs, especially through refit, then they get put on site and they're really not actually viable from the word go. So based upon that, we redesigned it ourselves, and we just put some structural reinforcement. So on the upstairs here, it's only a sketch, but there was actually a small plant room that you just about saw in the video earlier, where the buffer vessel could have fit, and the flow and return pipes could have run up this part here, up the outside wall where the existing gas pipe used to run. So basically we could build a small compound here, not block a fire access route the flow and return straight into the plant room and not have to modify the system. So just that saved us over £30,000 off the consultant design. But there are also other areas where they hadn't assessed the full load on the building, they hadn't looked at all the distribution boards, and they hadn't taken into account the reduce in loading by replacing all of the LED lighting. So we didn't actually have to do any grid upgrades on the site because there was sufficient capacity on site. But that was something that we had to work out in conjunction with the contractors rather than the consultant design. What we also built was an absorptive acoustic panel compound. Now, I've been questioned as to whether this is a real word. I can assure you it is in the Oxford English Dictionary. But these are just acoustic panels. They're thick tongue and groove steel timber panels, 25mm tongue and groove board, and with a rock wool liner. And these are right next to the classroom windows that open on the ground floor, and they cannot hear the heat pumps. Other projects we have seen where they've put heat pumps in without putting acoustic enclosures around, they've had complaints around the noise. And the building management system, this was another lesson learned. Consultant specifications routinely say things such as must consult a design and control specialist, must meet the adequate requirements of the building. So what we ended up getting was a Honeywell controller put into one of the corridors that really was not adequate control the heating system. So what we went back and added in later, which unfortunately we couldn't get funded through the heat grant, was an additional BMS. Excuse me. And this was added onto our corporate central vision. So a lot of our building management systems actually link in corporately to a main server. So we can, from my desktop here, I can access all of our sites and then control the heating systems. So this is what the front page, the building management systems, looks like for Bryn Hyfryd. So you've got your boilers, your heating zones, you've got your different floors, all your schedules. And in essence, what we've now got is every single room in the building, there's 3 floors on here, and there's different manifolds for different sections. They've all got their own set points. They've all got their own schedules. So every room is individual control. So you have different effects of thermal gain, solar gain. You have areas that might be cold, you have areas that might have servers, so on and so forth. So this means that each room, the 2-port valve for each room will actually shut off and stop excess heat going into them rooms when it actually gets to its desired set point. In terms of monthly consumption, heat pumps do increase costs at site. That's an unpopular thing to say, but it's to do with the utility costs between electric and gas. But at this site, because it's a large site and there's a swimming pool, leisure centre attached to it, and we've put a large PV array, we've actually managed to keep the costs, including LEDs, to a very slight decrease on an annual basis. And in terms of added value, we don't use refit. We've tendered this locally. We've used local SMEs to deliver the project. They were all Denbighshire based for the LEDs, for the heat pumps, for all the works. These SMEs have taken on more staff. So JM Renewables, who did that particular install, they've gone from about 16 people to nearly 30 because of the increase in work output from Denbighshire and local councils in North Wales. They've taken on apprenticeships, they've taken on trainees, they've expanded their business. In particular, they won a big contract to do solar PV on Durham Cathedral. And they're winning business through competitive tenders now because they're not. We initially applied for the low carbon heat grant based upon the design costs from consultants and large contractors. The actual tender cost came back in at around £80,000 lower than the big companies because they have lower overheads. It's as simple as that. And then in terms of the DCC energy team, so my team, I managed it. We've actually got 4 officers who are now career grade, and this is part of the support from within DCC. We've been able to bring people in and train them up. So we've now got people doing degrees, they're doing level 3 qualifications, energy carbon management, they're doing data science, and we're engaging with the colleges and the universities to actually enhance some training courses to better fit them to what's required from employers. And that is the presentation.
Great. Yeah, thanks very much, Martyn. And again, great point, I think, to finish on there. That sort of added value, isn't it? Wider benefits. You're not just sort of decarbonising that school. As you said, investment in local economy. Developing your knowledge in-house as well. What's for the wider public sector? We've got the Climate Change Officers Group where we share a lot of that good practice across local authorities, across the Welsh public sector. So yeah, really, really great to see, and say thanks for your presentation today, Martyn. That's great. Okay, so then we move on to our third and final case study. So we have Tony Moss here with us from Swansea to talk about a project in their local authority. So I'll hand over to you then, Tony. Thank you.
Okay. There we go. Can you see the screen? Has it come through okay?
Yeah, can see those. Thanks.
You can see that? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Tony Moss. I'm the energy manager, carbon manager, and everything else that tends to come my way. It's Swansea Council. I'd like to say thank you to the Welsh Local Government Association for the invite today. Just to give you a really brief overview summary of a heating decarbonisation project at our capital block. That's at our Rheolwr Building Services Depot. There is a case study of this project on the Welsh Government Energy Services website as well. So just to give you a quick overview of the capital block, it was constructed in the 1950s. It's a long 2-storey building that accommodates offices on the first floor. I've got mine on the top here. Maintenance depot on the ground floor with sort of roller blinds that are generally kept open during the days, not shut as they should be. Primary heat source was from a 45 kilowatt oil boiler. That was really coming to the end of its economic life, its efficiency. Not very environmentally friendly in the building itself, a bit smelly, etc. So I approached our carbon reduction retrofit service providers, Amrisco, and brought in our heating engineers. The intention was to apply for the low carbon heat grant, for which we were successful at replacing the oil boiler with an air source heat pump system. So the first approach that we took was a building fabric first approach, where we employed a company called Lampetus from Cardiff, local company, with instructions to report on the construction, the thermal elements and the U values of these elements. And from that report, we found the key findings. The floor to the office was a bottom plank sort of floor with hollow concrete blocks in them. There was no insulation to the underside of the floor. So the heating basically with the oil heating was just going down out and underneath the floor. So we installed non-combustible insulation boards to the underside of the offices. The walls are two 280mm thick brick cavity walls, for which we installed into the bead activity wall installations. The loft and suspended ceilings were only partially insulated. So there was some asbestos in the roofs, which Swansea Council funded for its removal, and then we installed additional insulation. And windows and external doors, we're going to install Quantaseal draft proofing to again further improve the air tightness of the buildings, and this will be funded by Swansea Council. So we've undertaken all those actions, and we've improved the thermal improvement of the building. In terms of the air source heat pump, the design, including all the information from the survey report to inform of the proposed heating requirements, and the installation of the air source heat pump system was undertaken by a company called Space Engineering Services from Bristol, another sort of fairly local company. They worked very closely with the Amorisco project team, and we had engagement with the building services heating engineers to discuss project, review designs, the technical specifications, and we had numerous site visits as well. At which point, once we were all satisfied and we had sign off, the end product was we got two Mitsubishi's air source heat system with a 150 buffer vessel. We've got a local thermostatic control in the office, so building occupants can have some control of the internal room temperature. And I've installed 2 heat pumps and 2 electric meters. So we're collecting real-time data, and we can analyze that data via a Metro Online software platform. So the project's now been delivered and it's operating, but the success of the project really was an emphasis on good communication between all parties, regular on-site project meetings, and well-planned site works. So that's keeping everybody on board and up to date on what was happening. So that's from the building occupants through to the sites. Handover training was provided by Space Engineering Services, and our HAPS housing heating engineers were part of that training, and now they've taken responsibility for maintaining and reacting to any issues with the training. So that's further enhanced their skills and knowledge of much larger systems. But what made it easier for them to take this on board was that they were involved with the project from day one. Improving the building thermal efficiency is vital to maximising the savings and benefits of a heat pump system. So it's just not a matter of going in and removing the oil boiler and installing the air source heat pump. You need to look at the building itself and the efficiency of the building and ensure the air tightness of it. We've given briefing sessions to the building occupants to understand how an air source heat system works, which is slightly different to an oil boiler, and in terms of the heat output and how to use the thermostatic controls and not to keep turning them up and down all the time, because we want to maintain a regular sort of temperature on the building. And I've implemented M&V sort of methodology with Amorisco to measure and verify the savings, and that'll be via the Metro Online software platform with all the data coming in. So this is going to be our first winter heating season with the air source heat pump. I know we had a cold spell a few weeks ago and we had no complaints, so I'm going to assume everything is okay. And I think it's important that not only do we sort of monitor the performance of the system, but we gain the interaction of our office colleagues for future projects as well. So including the full suite of sort of energy conservation measures that we've implemented, you know, on all the installations, etc., we're looking at potentially saving 408 tons of CO2 of the project's lifetime, 59,000 kilowatt hours, and around 15 tons of CO2. Decommissioning of the oil boiler has improved the air quality and leading to a more comfortable environment for those working in the building. And we're progressing on another refit phase at the moment, and that's going to include a roof-mounted solar PV system on this building to reduce the running costs of the heat pump system. So we have a number of schools and activity centres around the Gower Peninsula still on heating oils. So my future plans are to decarbonise the heating in these buildings, as well as looking at renewable installations as well. Finance is obviously a big issue, not just to us, but to us all, I think. And I've said the low carbon heat grant, but any grants are more than welcome so that we can carry on and deliver against these projects. That's just a very brief, quick overview of just one of our decarbonisation projects in Swansea.
Great, thank you, Tony. And appreciate, you know, it's a lot to cover in 10 minutes as well. So thanks to all our speakers for being able to do that. You know, that sort of summary of the projects, and you know, just great to hear about, I guess, a different sort of type of building as well. You know, you mentioned that, Tony, it's, you know, depot from the 1950s. You know, that's those sort of technical considerations, details that are there. And again, that collaboration, you know, being a theme again for all our case studies, and wider benefits as well, you know, building those skills, that knowledge, and that work's led on to further work as well. You know, you mentioned that roof mounted PV system as well. But yeah, so thanks very much, Tony.